we're pretty low key. We're going to get to the point, and we've been working on this for, goodness, this has been literally about a year that we've been working on getting you guys to this point. This has been a pretty heavy duty lifting scenario, and because like this is an open source, a lot of the stuff that we've done is about 20 years of work. So what we've done, myself, Jordan Martz, Director of Technology Solutions, so I manage a lot of product management and other activity at Attunity, and Dave Firks.
Hi, I'm with Qlik, Technology Evangelist, Office of Strategy Management.
So what we've done, and I'm going to get to the point on how we work. So last year's keynote, you talk about what we did. So a lot of customers knew the modules like Mara Table for Material Master. You talked about Tyson. That was a very famous one. They talk about where they measure the weight of the chicken, and they used by not using NiFi, and then they used us to get the material ID for the product information out of SAP in real time. So Verizon consolidated a bunch of their ERPs. What we've been working towards now is a dimensionalized data model for SAP. They're not here. I'm just going to say it. There's like there's an alternative path to even using BW by using this path. This would be dumping it entirely, and all the metrics around that. It's one Open Hub license. That's all you require. That's the only cost that it incorporates into this. So we're talking about massive savings. We've got a number of customers that we've done this with. There's, from our standpoint, Attunity, we loaded some of their biggest clusters out there. That's what our tool will do, and it will reconcile. When you load into Hadoop, the small files problem, like one file comes in, you need to merge them back together. So it's an automation of all the code on our end. But on your end, you guys have the data models, and you guys have designed incredible translation for that. So I'll let you kind of.
Yeah, so from the Qlik point of view, we've been working with SAP data for over 20 years. And based on that relationship, we've built a bunch of predefined modules by the different modules within SAP. You know, AR, AP, FI, CO, GL, Global Trade, MM, SD, all those, you know, and about 12 of them I think we've already got pre-mapped. And so what we've done in this new world, where we used to go directly with our own connector against the SAP system, pull that data out, and then load it into Qlik, we've remapped those connections, which are actually pretty darn easy to do, to pointing to running things in this new Hadoop environment, with Attunity doing the work of actually plumbing the data out of those antiquated SAP systems into something more modern and more flexible.
Right. So if you think about where we loaded, right? The demo today, because I'm VPNing to a Boston RDP is slow, so I'm going to be able to show you SAP, but we're using HD Insight for this one. So that's just a Hortonworks box hosted in Azure. But what we've also got is we built this on a local sandbox and downloaded it, right? We downloaded like 4 million records out of VBAC tables and sales orders, and did that just to do the SD module of this one. The way we built this took us 30 minutes. And so if you were to go buy tools like Teradata like for SAP with Accenture, you're going to spend $600,000-$800,000. We did it in 30 minutes, and it was incredibly fast. As you can tell, we've been working on this for a long time, and we call it the Smash Stack. We're going to put Rampage and cut it out and get some like excitement because that's the new movie that's out. But like this is a little terminology. It's fun. It gives you the fundamentals of Qlik Sense, which is really nice. One of the things that we'll showcase, but we won't do it today, and you can download Dave's dev environment, is all the cognitive stuff. So you're hearing like Power BI and Tableau, and I'm just an advocate for their technology because I like it. And so it's, you know, also when I work at Attunity, I'm selfishly like what I sell. But like when we talk about Qlik, what they're doing, they've got incredible AI that's now into this overall sequence. By dumping this into your data lake, now you've got the IoT opportunity, right? That's the driver. This is how you partner with SAP and help to explain to them, I'm going to dump it into a new target, and it's okay. And what we're doing in this one, Microsoft Azure, but the other term that we used was my deployment, basically your cloud, whatever, or your on-prem, your data center. And then our tool takes in Attunity Replicate will map SAP, and we'll also have Hortonworks data flow. So when I take this in, I'll give you a little background on what we do. So when we pull the data, here's the product manager, Greg, from the Replicate for SAP, from our team. But when we pull from these different systems, like I have customers in the automotive space, the Italian auto manufacturer, they're currently taking out of DB2 and SAP. They've got different modules, like 4 different modules they're dumping out right now. to do this type of use case, exact use case. And I've got Oracle SQL Server support. And then another one is like dumping out of their Teradata or the Netezza with this to build the data lake. And so what we do is we automate the landing, the ingestion, we write it all to Atlas, we load it in and reconcile that. And then part of that is we wrote a book. I don't know if you guys saw that, an iFi for Dummies book. We wrote that with Dummies. I wrote that with Hortonworks. And that was based on the idea of the IoT use case, like I was just talking about with like the food manufacturer. But when you're looking at it from what we do, this is literally no code, right? And it makes it really, really easy. So it took us years to do this. This is not, so we acquired a technology called Haze technology. You see it in the market as Sapphire called Gold Client. They have over 300 existing customers right now that use this. It's one of the easiest ways to do dev, test, prod migrations. So when you're looking at it from these modules, FI, FICO, but the other ones that are interesting are like your utilities, oil and gas, those modules that are very complex that took us years to get, right? We had 30 different industry models on the utility side alone, just to understand that module. So we say we've got 18 to 22, that's really the core. I mean, after that, you're getting into some nuanced ones in retail and some other aspects. But these solutions, we've got turnkey. When you look at ERP, these are the components of what we map, and that's part of the core. And when we map that, what we're looking at is this story, like how do we ingest into the Hadoop ecosystem? So we got out of a talk earlier this morning, we talked about GDPR and compliance and those things, because that affects this overall ecosystem as well, and how we load into Atlas. Part of that overall sequence is like pulling all this data. Well, we're only going to fit in these sources into this Hadoop, into these relational sources right here. Everything else, this is NiFi, right? So when you look at who we are and how we do it, we load a lot of the clouds themselves. So our data warehouses, like if you don't want to write TPT ever again, or you don't want to have to worry about optimizations and loading Netezza, or loading into SQL Server, or out of SQL Server, or Oracle, all of those, make it really easy. So that's part of our overall unified story. And as you can see, we partnered very closely with Hortonworks because of just the way we've done this. This also is enforced because of our relationships to the cloud. Attunity moved 80,000 databases last year, whether you knew it direct through Attunity or not. I mean, the scale is absolutely wild. So we started out with this concept of like, so as a background, I've been with this Hadoop space for like the past 5 years. I was the enterprise architect at Domino's Pizza. And so I was replacing their mainframe and moving off of their Netezza BI and some other applications and stuff like that. And this comes from that experience, this whole maturity model. What we were doing was we were hand coding HIVE, Pig, and Uzi scripts, right? Classic, you know, you load with Pig and have to maintain it. Well, data models change, right? Upgrades happen. So what we've done is using Replicate, if the data model changes, we don't care, we change with it. You'll get notification, you just have to know, do I get rid of the column, do I fix it? The way we install, we look at it from like Ford, which is very public with what we've done with them. They have over, of all their pertinent, relevant, important sources, there's 800 of their 3,000 already in production. That's 100,000 tables a second, and there's a lot of SAP dumping into there. And when you're looking at it from that standpoint, now you get into what Greg and I were talking about with the compliance and all the regulatory of just being able to onboard that many sources, because it's hard. So we make it really relatively easy. That's why I'm such a big believer in it, because I've just lived it as a customer. What we're looking at now is just making all these things work in a nice and easy way. So let's talk about this HANA use case. So with HANA, one of the core use cases is like this Canadian, there's a Canadian, like the Canadian Walmart. We were talking to one of those groups, and I was talking to their HANA DBAs, and they were like literally there every weekend, because like, you know, the trigger-based stuff is taking down HANA, right? So it was one of those like situations where I looked at it and then I was like comparing, and I was thinking about my other customer that's using our tool because of the way we designed the actual current integration of HANA. We have yet to release the full a transaction log for HANA. We have yet to do that. That's on a roadmap item, I can say that. As part of our, Greg can nod and say yes. But that's the key of this is basically we're running a query-based CDC. We're triggers, right? But our triggers actually are built in a in-memory compiled format. So they're 5x, officially 5x faster than SLT to be able to move that data. So what you're looking at is the DBAs are not working every weekend anymore. And the way we operate right now to extract those modules is the way we pull out of this. So with S4, all these different components, the backwards compatibility. This comes from our Gold client, which does exist or has existed for a long time across all these different modules back into legacy systems, because not everybody upgrades. It's totally relevant. When you look at HANA itself and the rest of the different platforms, Oracle, we go back. So our history with Oracles, we've been migrating as a CDC tool in the Oracle space as not only OEM, but a partner to them since 2005. We're packaged in with every SQL Server since 2005. We're the only code inside SQL Server that Microsoft doesn't write. Literally deployed with every single one is our ability to move Oracle to SQL. So when we look at it from our ease of use of getting you there, this is the architectural pattern, and then I'll get into why we're here and what we're talking about. So under the covers, I hook in, we're going to use Oracle as an example, the Oralog, the backup. We CDC in. You've got pool cluster transparent tables. In order to actually figure out the join, not only just by the module, you have to join the cluster to the transparent table, and you don't even know how it does it. You have to understand which transparent by the depth. Not only that, but you have to understand the timestamp. So our tool does that translation under the covers. That's the core of it. So when I go to my dropdown, I'm going to show you your 4-letter business object that you want to see. And when you're looking at those business objects, we're auto-joining those by reading the backup logs the minute they actually hit. So what we're doing is there's 2 factors here. There's an installation to the agent inside SAP, which in that agent of SAP, we're auto-calling all those BOPI calls to make sure we understand the joins. So it lives on both the active and the failover ECC instance. That's the actual agent. But what makes the DBAs happy, so getting past your SAP administrator is not as bad as getting past your DBAs, right? So getting past your DBAs, we do not have to install anything inside the OS. So that helps you to get that translation. It also gets you there much, much faster because we're actually tunneling in. So if it's an Exadata box that's running the backend for your ECC instance, and that instance we deploy into has the way that you hook into Oracle, you're actually rack aware because you're part of the core database. That's how engineered we are into Oracle. So when we pull this, and we're now doing it in real time, now you can persist it anywhere. We're doing this in Azure, right? And we dumped all this data relatively quickly. We do POCs in 5 days, right? So we literally are dumping entire modules in 5 days. Now you got reporting. That's turnkey. So then you can then persist this and cache this out, and this is where you see blob store, right? The backend for HD Insight. It's not just storing it in HDFS, it's actually a blob storage that you're putting it into. So that's very easy and actually acclimatable to loading it into Kafka and then into HD Insight from there, into Qlik. So what I did was I looked at some of the modules, and these modules are covered. When we look at it from our module-based, the way that Qlik designed it is not based on modules entirely. It's based on business process, like AR, attacking that. Why am I attacking AR if I'm just combining multiple modules, right? And what I have is, I'm going to keep going because I think we've got a pretty educated audience. No one's like, I'm going to add these extra hidden slides. So when I add these in here, you guys recognize these tables, right? So you guys see all these tables? We're literally combining all these by module. All I need is the control on the left side, and then I combine those, right? And that'll be the demo. And in that, in your book, you could start, don't do it on your, because we're about to do the demo, and if you guys all hit the website, I don't know if what's gonna happen. But like, if you're taking this in, these are tables you guys recognize, and we know exactly which ones to go pull from that we've already translated. So this makes it real easy. You're talking hours to translate SAP, so I'll let you take over, Dave.
There we go. All right. So Attunity's doing all the heavy lifting here, from moving the data, doing the change data capture, doing all the work of the extraction component. And where we step in at the Qlik point of view is at the end of it to get that last mile, put it in front of the business users. I used to work at SAP. Before that, I spent 8 years as the Cognos SAP expert at Cognos, hey, and IBM. So I got to know SAP really well, and more importantly, got to know how bad the SAP tools are for trying to actually use them to get data. So what we've done from Qlik is we've really come in with this ability to tap into the SAP data, which is very, very powerful, which has no front end, using Attunity to put this into a platform that is much, much better for getting value out of and doing transforms, reliability, throughput, all the great things that Horton and HD Insights bring to the table. And then we have these pre-built apps that we've put together over the years by teams of people that have come over from SAP, that know all the different modules. And we came at it, again, not from a technical point of view, came at it from a business point of view. What are we trying to do as a user if we're trying to look at these things? So for those of you that aren't familiar with Qlik, hopefully you all are, it is a business intelligence visualization analytics tool. We're in the top leaders quadrant of the Gartner chart every year. We've been there for 8 years, 12 years, something like that, I don't know. Been there for quite a while. We generally compete with things like Tableau, compete with things like Power BI. But unlike those tools, which are kind of primitive SQL tools, Qlik has its own engine that allows us to do transformations of this data, adding in a lot of business logic, adding in a lot of information that's actually not even possible with the kind of dumb query tools like Power BI and Tableau. So with the work that Attunity's done and the change data capture and porting the data over, we add a ton of our own logic to process out the information, add value to it, and then actually format it so users can come in and understand that data either as structured dashboards or come in and do ad hoc analytics. So really, this has been a great partnership working with Attunity. Because it brings out the best in both companies, and we kind of already covered all these benefits. So we've got a couple of applications here. These are screenshots. I'm going to skip all these. We got 20 minutes?
Yeah, we got 20 minutes.
We're going to roll slow and walk through this now. Okay, so it's like, what was it, Jimmy Fallon that slow jams the news?
Yes.
We'll slow jam the demo here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with just one of our applications here. And we're going to start normally as a Qlik user. We'd start on the front end and show you all the pretty stuff. And then we'd go and show you how it all worked. You guys are a smart audience. You're clearly at a Hadoop conference, so you're going to be able to understand the technology. So we're going to start backwards and understand what we're looking at. So this is an example of a material management application. And so with Qlik, it's a little bit different than other tools. We have an application. That application contains the visualizations, it contains the mappings to the data, and it contains the actual data itself. It's a columnar in-memory format, so it's highly compressed. It's very, very fast, and allows really, really quick analytics as I go through and work with the data. We're known for green, white, and gray. That's why I have these cool shoes here. And we'll see as we go through the demo. Green indicates things that I've selected. White indicates correlated values. Gray indicates non-correlated values. So we always give you context and relevancy of your data, how it impacts other data. OK, so let's talk now about what we're looking at. So these are the scripts that we run against HD Insight, against Hortonworks. Really don't care. Initially, were written against ECC directly. And we go through here and we capture some of the things that we're doing as far as how we tag things. And right here, here's the tables we need in order to do a material management analytics. And again, I saw a lot of you guys nodding when Jordan pointed out some of these tables. Oh yeah, of course you need those. But when we get into each one of those tables, we can actually see that we're doing some of these transformations. We're applying some logic, applying some variables. To go in and pull this information out. So you can see we're just pulling in HIVE from...
Yeah, I want to mark this. This is exactly what we did. You literally download this, you rename the name, and we just plugged it.
That's it.
Right on top.
Yep.
This took us like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was really cool. Because this part here is the only thing that changes from system to system. So if it's running on HD Insight, they use the prefix HIVE, and then the database, and then the table inside of that database. If I'm using Hortonworks, it's just database dot table name, and that's it. When we ported this over to run on Hortonworks off HD Insights, it was a search and replace, and it took us less than like 3 minutes to go and do that. It's really remarkable, the process. So ISEG, RSEG, and a lot of these, when we get in here, you'll see that we're capturing most of the information. So EKPO, we've got a lot of information that we're bringing in. Some of these, when we get down here, you'll actually see that, we're actually pulling in most of Mara. We're doing a lot of transformation. So if we can look here, for example, at the scheduling one, look at all this transformation we're doing to get time series logic. So we're coming over and we're doing a lot of these transformations to turn these oddly formatted things into quarters, into months, into days. We're doing math on purchasing days and delivery days, and we're doing all this transformation logic in memory. We're not doing it like as the transformation happens. We load the data, we transform in memory, so it's like 100 times faster than doing it as an inline transformation. So we're adding all this value add on top of it. At the end of it, what we get is a really nice schema of how all these tables fit together, and we can see the maps and the keys. And the cool thing about Qlik is I can see a relationship here between these different tables. And if I hit a preview, it will show me some information about this. It's got the preview of the data, fields, keys, rows, things of that nature. If I look at the values, it'll actually give me all the metrics about that. Hey, that kind of looks Parquet-ish. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is like Parquet, because we have our in-memory engine, and it's columnar, and all that stuff kind of looks the same. But one of the key differentiators for us versus these other BI tools in the space is that I don't see anything implying cardinality. We don't force you as a user, as a designer, as an admin to go, I really think this is it's a one-to-many relationship, and this is an inner join, or that's an outer join, or that's a, nope, don't do any of that with Qlik. We don't do that. Everything's full outer all the time. We use our own correlation engine to figure the actual relationships out in the data, not the guessed relationships in the data. Now, a lot of these tables have been around for 1,000 years, because SAP's been around for 1,000 years. And so a lot of this knowledge is tribal, and people know that. But if we're adding in this information, and now we're adding in custom tables that we mapped, and maybe we're adding in some Salesforce, we're adding in some Oracle data, we're adding in other data sources to this, it's really easy to plumb new stuff in, because we don't have to guess on how we think it fits. It just snaps in, and the engine will sort out how it all fits together.
So this is interesting when I talked about our tool with how we integrate with Gold Client. Gold Client is there to do dev, test, prod migrations, all your customizations. That's the tool you use to handle that customization problem. The Z tables, all that stuff. This hooks it incredibly easy. That's why we work with Qlik, is just because now your customizations are super easy to fold in. We already are the partner that helps you to migrate customizations to new platforms, like to get that slice to prime the pump for a new migration. You upgrade or something like that. So all those Zs, this is exactly why it's so easy to do. So all your customization tables become really parallelized. I mean, rather than us doing it 5 minutes and having standard SAP tables, now we've got your SAP, your customizations that we can pull in really fast too.
Cool. All right, so we now know what the data visually looks like. We understand what we're doing to get the data and some of the transforms that we're doing, but what does it then look like for the user who's consuming it? So we're going to come in now to the actual dashboard and take a look. So when we come in, what we're going to get is some high-level information around our material management here. So these are the different sheets that we have that are all based on this data that we're looking at in memory. We built some KPIs, urging letters, purchasing docs, PO quantity values. We've got some plot line down here in our table that's broken out the information by the different PO amounts. We've got some graphics that show us where the volumes of this information is coming from. So we've captured this information. But this is just the high level. And the thing about Qlik is when I come in, I go, well, I clearly want to look at these two companies here. I can make those selections. You see how everything on the screen immediately updates and changes. So it's not re-querying back to SAP, waiting for that to come back across the pipe. We've already gotten all that raw transactional data, and we can just now start investigating and playing with it. And with Qlik, everything is being captured visually here. So I've made some selections. I've made a selection for R300 and Company 1000. Now, if I want to come in here and make some additional choices, maybe I want to look just at the United States, I will dive into that. And now I'm looking at purchasing documents for United States. And now I can see these green, white, and gray things come in here. Well, I actually see multiple colors. Well, I selected the country US, and I see these gray entities over here. Well, gray indicates possible. So it's possible that these things happened in the United States. However, these companies do not have any operations in the United States. So I'm getting this really interesting perspective on how my data fits together. And unlike a lot of tools, even though I'm looking at just these few bits of information that are on the screen, if I come over to my global selector here, I can now see all of the raw data that was pulled in this application. And not only can I see it, I can also see how it fits in with the selections that I've made. So for the US companies R300 and 1000, there's only been activity in February, July, September, and October. Well, I didn't have that information on my main screen, but that's a valuable thing I might want to go investigate. So having access to all of that raw data and understanding how it is impacted by the selections that I made, even if I don't put it on my dashboard, is another cool thing that Qlik's doing to give you insight into the relationships of the data. So as we move on from page 1, I move to page 2, and hey, look, my selection stayed with me. It didn't reset. Again, we're an application, not a dashboard, not a simplified report. So keeping looking at the country US and those company codes, I can see more information. We're now getting deeper into the information around what's happening with the individual charges, requisition trends, and information. Now, this is all IDES data, so it's, as you guys know, kind of hot garbage, but you can kind of see some of this information as we dive down. Now, I've got delivery line information here. And as we go through these different sheets, each one of these different sheets is describing a different component or slice of what we've interviewed our customers that are important to material management. And you know, we keep going down and down and looking at different things. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm a material management expert, but there's a lot of value here that's built into this. And I can always come in and create new content. I can build new I can build new visualizations here. I can add on to this, and then with Qlik, we can publish and share and send it out to people and do all that kind of stuff. So the main point is that Qlik has created a lot of this internal IP over the years, and it's publicly available. We put it out on our Qlik community. For working with Jordan, we've gone through it and modernized it and kind of upgraded it for our newer versions of Qlik, which is called Qlik Sense. But the point is that these models, the building of the front end is actually the easy part. The hard part is doing the work of plumbing in the back end. And that's the part that we've already done, and that's the part that Attunity automates. So going through the process of picking a module or multiple modules, hooking Attunity up, doing the work to get the data landed in Horton or HD Insight, and then sticking Qlik on top of it, making a few changes to that load script that we talked about, is very simple. And so this is material management. If we come back here, I'll go back to my hub, and we'll see we have other options here as well. Let's go take a look at the Hortonworks.
You guys all have access to that.
Yeah, so
I will.
Yeah, this is a public demo site here. And so let's look at the S&D version for Hortonworks. Similar constructs. I try to keep a common theming when I rebranded these. But now again, we're looking at billing information around sales and distribution. And we've got information here, some high-level metrics. So, well, what if I just want to look at the US and Canada? Well, I make that selection over here. Notice how all those metrics change, all my spark lines change. You can see the green, white, and gray come in. When I made those choices in countries, a lot of my companies disappeared. I lost about a third of my companies, a third of my divisions, and about 70% or 30% of my distribution channels went away. But everything is now updated. And as I go through looking analysis and trends, looking through at the billing details and the customers, now I can get into individual areas and where they're happening. It looks like I have a lot of billing information coming from this particular area here. So it looks like Denver. Now I've drilled down into specifically what's going on with Denver, and all the data in the page is now related to Denver. And as I go through, well, that was cool for billing. What about shipments out of Denver? So all of this capability to do these analytics quick, fast, and to down to the individual transactions, along with things like smart search. So let's say I come over here and I go, I'm really interested in looking at company 1000, and I type in 1000. It'll show me some charts where it is, margin amounts, customer number, or more elements that list up like that. So let's look at customer number 1000. And here's the information for customer number 1000. I just typed that in and it found it for me. Maybe I do 1,000 and Denver or something like that. And it will now come in and find where I've got order quantities and shipping points, and it's going to show me where this information fits together simultaneously. So it's a very smart search engine which is looking through that information at very low levels of granularity. So again, just thank you for letting me have the quick tour through Qlik. But again, it's getting this information to the users. SAP's always had great data. It's just had a really hard time of telling anybody about it through their limited interfaces. So we think we've come up with a pretty good way of getting answers faster at the point of decision.
Okay, so we've got about 7 minutes left. So I'm going to do a quick and dirty of how the tool works to give you like how do we get the data, all right? So inside ECC, right now I've got Replicate, the tool. So this is going from an Oracle database. Let me pull open an ECC right here. So here's HANA, here's ECC S3. All right, what I have is an Amazon instance. This is like you create an endpoint, you start a new job. So I go back to tasks, I click on a new one, create the task, name it, it turns into this. What I do is I drag from here 2 of these little elements, SAP over here and Kafka. I want to start selecting a number of tables. We built this for Mara. I did a webinar with, I don't know if you guys do Smart Factory or have like a machine intelligence like Industry 4.0 or like KUKA robots or manufacturing your cars. I did a webinar with Hortonworks like a week ago where I was dumping out Mara data from this IDES. But so you recognize all these, right? Sales transaction, sales master, all this stuff. This is all basically translating all of those modules. So inside the tool, so here's the 4-letter acronyms. Here's JSTO. You guys probably recognize that one. So I'm going to go a2D. This is very secure. So when I go into this part, you've got the SAP instance. Here's the agent that lives in there. This agent can translate and put the nomenclature that he's got on the BI report back into the overall component. Like stream sets, I shouldn't have that at a Hortonworks thing, but like I got all kinds of partners that a lot of people are using this all over the place. This is the from what I understand from people that talk to us, this is the recommended tool. So that sales transaction, when I go into here and I open it up, look at the tables, you literally can just rename them from this UI to translate them right out of SAP. So that makes it really, really easy. So this is the tool. I can generate a bunch of records. I've got like a little silly gizmo that can do that for a demo by adding that, but I'm just gonna, you guys can take my word for it. Whenever we put this in, you've got these different modules. Now, what we did was we went into that tool and we built a view of those tables that came right out of here. So literally, I need to build that Qlik view. I got these tables right here. I've got sales and distribution, more like VBAC and those tables that you're used to. So here we go. Here's VBAC, sales orders, sales headers, right? Those type of tables. So all this is right here, just dumps over. So I just click this and now I got everything coming over. So I don't want to overload my Kafka with like 2 million records while we're using the wonderful internet here. But what I've got is this whole installation. Now when you look at it from the tools we have, so the demo we have with GDPR, right? Let's say I got an Attunity system right here. I've got their compliance Hortonia, SAP, I'm loading that over here. That's how we built the demo. Using this tool right here, reverse engineers generates all the Hive, and now it will just start generating Spark. So it will generate your Spark SQL for you. That's the Compose product if it loads.
VPN on
Yeah,
public Wi-Fi.
Yeah, at a conference. So I guess we can talk about that later, but like this tool right here. This tool's giving you all kinds of metadata around how people are running the different modules. I can tell you exactly the performance. Our ability to understand the underlying SAP is better than the Oracle guys with the AEM backend. We got way more performance statistics than, well, we don't have way more. We have enough to upset your DBA. And so this is really a kind of a cool thing. Then we dump all the metadata, it's all Atlas and lineaged, right? Now you can merge your IoT sources. So like the Symmetric one I did was based on the idea that I merged Mara data with image data for pistons that are being, oh, that's awesome too, with pistons that are being created. So like if you could run the deep learning, like there's classes right now on deep learning, you do image recognition off these XML files to understand exactly how far the piston goes in. And Symmetric has like huge companies, like $1.2 billion companies, so it's like half the manufacturing world, or like PTC, you know, they talk about the the railroad companies, but literally part of the webinar was taking the XML, OpenCV, measured how far the piston was going in, dumped it back to Mara IDs, and we did it in like 3 hours. So this is like a data science like toolbox. I mean, you just literally can start doing stuff that's going to start upsetting management because you're literally doing stuff so fast. It's great, and it's a fun tool. So how we operate, so like at Ford, I mean, that's where I live in Ann Arbor, so I drive 20 minutes to the east and go over there, and like literally this is a data analyst tool. Like DBAs and getting data becomes like ubiquitous. So it's just a dumping ground for 30 petabytes. I mean, literally, that's the type of operations that we're seeing customers having that opportunity. And in the manufacturing realm, those are the use cases, right? That's what's fun about it. That's why it's such a wonderful thing. So I think that's all we had. Anybody got questions? I don't want to, yeah.
I have two different questions. With the CDC, and maybe I heard you correctly, I thought when you showed the tables, you said you were creating one view of all those tables. Are you moving table for table to your target? Yeah. So if you're at 10 tables, you're going to move 10 tables to 10 tables.
We'll generate the metadata for a catalog, create the tables, lay in the files. Actually, we'll reconcile the leads with the posts. So we will run the merge so we get rid of the duplicates, and then we'll also make sure the proper sequence.
I got it. You're not creating any models or anything. That's you.
That's what we do. Yeah.
Now, you said it was real time, but how is that possible when you load the data into the
The CDC is real time.
Yeah.
Qlik is going to be more of a batch type scenario.
I'm with you. So I thought on your slide you said Qlik was doing it real time.
Well, we do it near time because depending on how often you want to reload, the CDC stuff, what that time frame is. A lot of Qlik, sales and distribution, once a day is fine. Material management, you want to reload it every 15 minutes, every hour, that's fine. So it's closer to more near time than it is real time. But I mean, the real time use cases that they have, I mean, so like Tyson talked about, they had like 4 columns they needed. And they need them like within
SLA, Greg, was 30 seconds. Wasn't it like they had to have it within 30 seconds? They had to have it sequenced in 30 seconds too. So like duplicates and everything resolved. So that was their normal report. And that, they ran that report as because the problem is that the chickens, they run through like the gate, and they had to be able to measure them in real time to see which ones are ready. Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions. First one is along the same lines. CDC, how does CDC work if, because most of the SAP tables doesn't have the update time span.
Right.
So how do you do CDC in those cases?
Mm-hmm.
My second question is, do you do any data cataloging at a column level? Because you showed me the table level if you have the nomenclatures, but do you do any data cataloging for the entire data structure?
Yeah, so we will load into Atlas to do some of the cataloging, and then you're gonna have to use another tool for that. Like there's information governance, Calibra. I mean, Greg, that's his background.
So when we're doing the kind of transformation piece, we have column level transformation. That is not yet going to Atlas column level, but the next version.
So, and the other question you had was, how do we take care of the timestamps? So that was a showstopper, right? So what we've done is, because it's the initial load, you have to pull it out, all the timestamps out of BW. So that's how we do it. Now, the problem is this is what SAP, this is what really gets them though, because since we add a timestamp to every column, we fix that because we're instantaneously capturing it.
So you add the timestamp.
Once you prime the pump and you load it the first time, when we get all that timestamps out of BW, we've primed the pump. So after that, all there's timestamps everywhere now. It's changed the entire SAP game. Yeah.
So what do you mean out of BW? You didn't describe BW.
I didn't know.
ECC and SP.
That's your original historical load, the first load. The first load has to be a dump of the BW data.
Do you mean from an SAP BW system?
Yeah.
So that you must have it, or you mean the system that resides in ECC? Not an
So,
additional
no. So it's two sides to this. There's the original data that's in ECC, and then you may have history that's also part of that ECC set because you're backing it up or you're not carrying it from the ECC. So we could, if you want to restore all your backups, we could do it for that way, or we can pull it out of BW to get some of the history So it's just a matter of like capturing the whole history for all time, from the whole, as much history as you can ever get from that SAP system. We can do an initial load after, and even go into backups automatically, because we're the way we read. But in certain use cases, people don't carry backups from their ECC system, so we have to load the initial prime out of the BW instance. Yep.
So you're talking about the scope of data that we, the business, want to operate with.
Right.
We're not interested in that history. Let's say it's a brand new Greenleaf SAP installation.
So it's
I don't have-
perfect. That's like our favorite scenario, but no one's ever got like new one. It's always like someone's got like 15 years and it's like all kinds of stuff, and we want 15 years of BW, and I'm going, oh my God, it's going to be getting past the DBAs is going to be wild. So like that's the same way SLT does it, but like we're just getting all that metadata and we're prime the pump and go.
So if it is probably in the way that you were describing it, a typical installation, you want data from the SCC side or SAP, the ERP rather, and BW to pump into your Hadoop array.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the way that it
That's exactly the way. Yep. So, oh, they're going to throw us out.
Start the music.
So, okay, yeah, let me mark that. So EBS has like, because I came from Oracle, right? But it doesn't have the same translation of the SAP, right? Because you don't have to do it at the application layer. EBS is just tables. So I could just pull the demo with Oracle and we'd be fine. I mean, it's not a big deal. JD Edwards, right? F11 tables, you probably remember all those fun names, but like those are just database tables, right? So for us to be able to do what we showed was just collecting instead of the Oracle database, we can do CDC from that all day, any system. We can do Salesforce. So it's just, for us, we didn't want to have, the Hadoop Foundation would not let us take out SAP in the title of it with that whole thing. So we were putting another context into the conversation. I didn't mean take out a smash. Cool. Hey, thanks everybody. Have a good trip home. Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's right.